That's such a good idea.
All right, so I'm here with Robert Jacobson, and uh, we've known each other for a little while now. We met through Craig Fay. You're his brother-in-law, right? I think.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I guess you could just share maybe a little of what you do and maybe some of your background if you want to. I don't know just who you are and stuff. So
Yeah. So happy to be here, Jason. Chat. Good to catch up. My name is Robert Jacobson. I'm originally from Modesto, California, and came out to Tennessee to do a PhD on Mars geology. And I'm still working at the University of Tennessee. I'm a lecturer, and so I get to teach geology classes, and geology education classes. Yeah.
that's cool. So do you normally like just teach like planetary geology, or is it all
I
sorts of stuff?
teach, yeah, I teach an intro geology, which is like a very general sort of like physical geology or like earth science kind of. And then I also teach a like geology of the planets course. And
Nice.
then I also do like a graduate seminar on like best practices in teaching. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So. I don't know where to go with that. There's lots where we could go with that, I guess. So what do you know? I think I remember when I talked to you about this a long time ago. You did you say your interests were more about the planets, in general, or no?
I think that that's where like my interests were coming out of my undergraduate studies. I was really excited to learn about the planets and about Mars, and I really wanted to like kind of bridge the gap between what we know about Earth and what we know about, or what we think we know about the planets. And that's what I really focused on in my dissertation is how can we leverage or use something that we see on Earth and then try to build sort of like comparisons to what we think we see on Mars. And so the topic that I mostly focused on were rivers on Earth and then what we think are river rocks on Mars and the patterns that they form and the amount of water that was needed to form them. And so trying to get an idea of what was the environment like on Mars, and using Earth as sort of like the template or the Rosetta Stone for like interpreting Mars. Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, is that kind of a accepted theory now that there were rivers on Mars, or you're not quite
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah, definitely. We've known for a while that Mars once had a much more vibrant water cycle in the past. That there was a climate system, there was rivers and lakes, and there's theories out there that there could have been a whole ocean. It's still kind of debated whether or not there was like rain or was it like snow and ice. So it kind of waffles between like an environment like say what you might find in the Arctic tundra, or something that's maybe a little bit more further south. Nothing's going to be like rainforest wise, but people are kind of debate on like how warm did it get? How did the water show up? Was it rain or was it like snow and ice and glaciers? And so there's kind of they don't debate the fact that there was water. They just debate what type of like climate conditions there
So
were.
how do you? I remember like when we first met, you were explaining it to somebody, and I was like, sounds like you just make stuff up. But so how do you? Is that like? Is it just a kind of a lot of theories? Like, how do you determine that? Uh,
Well, you have to go out and get more evidence. And so it's really challenging actually. It's a very hard science to really prove anything.
I imagine.
Yeah, I mean and because you're limited with gathering your data from only a certain set of observations. And so um a lot of it is like trying to prove something just about Earth, maybe by just looking at Google Earth.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
solely
Yeah.
looking at it from a really big picture, a global perspective, and you can do a lot. I'm not saying that Mars science is phony at all.
No, I
You
was
can
saying that. I was just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
joking.
You can do a lot, and because you can also look at Mars in other parts of the light spectrum. You can look at it in the infrared and the longer wavelengths than our eyes can see, and you can actually use that information to understand what the material is made out of. And so you could be able to tell like the land cover difference if it is sort of like um, just like broken up rock versus like material that may have been weathered or changed into more of like a clay. It's been affected by water basically. And so you can see those differences at those other wavelengths. You can use data that isn't necessarily light based, or you can use the signal to get out elevation, and you can get the topography of the landscape, and then you can start to study like how has the landscape changed over time. And so you're always trying to find a new way of analyzing the same data.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. You can do
Yeah.
so much. So do you, I
Well, I mean,
remember, sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't say it's very different from studying say ancient scriptures, because you really just have the same scriptures, but
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
looking at it with different lenses and different forms of it, or methods of like breaking it apart and trying to see its patterns and to build an interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, and build it, discover the story and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, because I think I remember you mentioning to me once about even with the whole question of was there life on Mars, and I think if I remember right, you said you had a feeling there probably wasn't, because if there was that right? Because if there was, from the evidence you've seen, that it usually continues or something, or or
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, no, I talk about this freely, but this is like the first time I've talked about it whenever I'm being recorded. So
oh, well,
I got an
you don't have to. I don't want
no,
you to put your foot in your
no,
mouth
no,
or anything. I'm
it's
just
good. It's
curious.
good. It's about time that I came out to all of my fellow Martians that
Oh
I
no.
don't. No, it's okay. Yeah, no, when I look at the history of life on Earth, um, the uh, Earth has been radically reshaped by the presence of life. Life has uh, altered our atmosphere, changed our oceans. Um, you find it everywhere on Earth. There's actually very few places where you can't find evidence of life.
Mhm.
And so that tells me that life is a tenacious force that can almost, once it shows up somewhere, it almost can't be stopped. And so if Mars had life, I would expect its fingerprints to be everywhere, and
Okay.
it's the signs of it to be almost self-evident. And so the fact that we do not have anything that's really definitive or even leaning towards conclusive evidence that life probably existed on Mars tells me that the more and more we look, the more likely it is that it could possibly not have ever existed there.
Let's see.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and I mean there's always, that's just a theory, or that's a hypothesis, I should
Yeah.
say. And
Well, I got a
there's
question
yeah.
question to tack onto that though. Is it could you maybe say like I mean you know me, I just kind of stick around scriptures too. I'm not that well educated, but even in scriptures it'll talk about like a certain area becoming a wasteland. And in wastelands like that, is there more evidence for life on Earth? Or is it kind of similar to Mars in that way?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say like even the driest deserts, like we find life.
At least, okay,
It's just
yeah,
like, yeah, it's just very dormant. It's living under like layers of salt, and in between like
it's crazy.
cracks and rocks, and yeah, they really take advantage of any sort of shadow, because any moisture in the water will like condense in the shadow. and
Whoa,
that live off that water. Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah.
Wow. So I got a question about the geology of Mars, though. Is it like because in what is it, Greek mythology, or no, it's not even that. I guess alchemy or all of them. It's related to iron, I think, is the metal of Mars. I've heard that before. Is that like something they've determined, or is that
Oh
just according
yeah.
to story?
No, no, no. I mean, so Mars is red because of iron oxide. Um, and it is sort of yeah,
This
so
feels like a
the
stupid
last
question now.
no, 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 you're good. It's like Mars is basically kind of rusted out. Um, the last sort of the current stage of its history and sort of the last stage of its history has been a very, very dry period. And that has caused most of the surface to sort of react with iron that was present in the rock, a really high abundance of iron in the rock, and then to create sort of a reddish hue. And then also over the millions and billions of years, the creation of a lot of dust. Mars is a very dusty place. And so there's a lot of iron in that dust. And so it kind of coats everything.
Wow. Yeah, because I always heard that. I didn't know if it was actually a fact though, or if it was
Yeah.
just, according to story. So are the metals, well, I don't know. I can't imagine they would actually be accurate because I think, or is it silver is associated with the moon, which is kind of strange. Is it then I think mercury is mercury. Is it actually have a lot more mercury in the metal or in the rocks on
No,
that?
I don't think so.
That's just
I
made
don't,
up. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just making it up. And yeah, it's just probably like kind of looking at like how fast Mercury like kind of goes around the sun. And then like
Okay.
the
Ah,
Mercury is kind of like a really, it's a, it's a liquid,
that.
and it's like I don't know if it's I don't know if it like was it's probably has a very low viscosity, and so it like flows really easily.
Wow,
Um,
that's really good observation. I never thought about that. So like Hermes, the messenger god. That's yeah.
yeah,
So how fast he runs around the sun. That's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't even know all of them. I know Venus. I can't remember what Venus is supposed if there's a medal with that or not. But I know that's supposed to be Aphrodite. But I heard that Jupiter is tin or something like that because of all that.
interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you get down the alchemy track?
I'm not really sure. I just was trying to. I just was listening to random stuff when I drive with my job for podcasts, and I started listening to the Greek myths, and then they're in the Roman terms, they're just the planets. And then each of
Yeah,
them is associated with different metals, come to find out. And then that maps onto alchemy as well. And so
nice,
it's like, I think Saturn is lead. Um,
interesting.
yeah. And I don't know, I've heard somewhere that it's got associations to Satan, but I don't know if that's necessarily right. But I know the idea of Kronos and the circles around Saturn. It's like time, and it's how the wave,
Yeah,
and it's really heavy, and it's like constricting, and they're almost like I think it's supposed to be kind of like bonds or something, bonds of time, and it's very.
interesting.
So
Huh.
it's like the heaviest metal. Tin, I think, is the lightest metal, which is like Zeus and Jupiter. Um, yeah, and I can't remember which way. I mean, I think alchemy is what you start with lead, then you go to. Is it tin is next? I can't remember. I don't know. But yeah, it goes through like the planets too. It all maps on. So I don't know. That's
Oh,
what's
cool.
kind of interested in it. But yeah, and Aries is the god of war, which is Mars. That one's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's fun. Do you ever teach on that in class?
I don't.
What? You should do it. Pull in some Greek mythology, man.
A professor used to like spend a lot of time on that, and I kind of I don't know.
Did he
There
did
was
he get
better use
kicked out?
he kind of got asked to retire.
That's hilarious. Why did they think he was nuts or something?
No, I mean he was fine. He just kind of I don't know, he was just kind of like yeah,
It's too out there.
no, it wasn't too out there. I think The main goal, I think, my department really needs to generate more majors and more interest in the field. And I think the way that he was constructing his courses, it didn't um, it
Yeah,
didn't lead to a lot more majors. Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of more, I think that would be more going down philosophy or something, or I don't know what you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna want to try to recruit majors, you kind of want to ask them questions about geology and not Greek mythology.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
He would
Have
also
you
he'd give out a lot of answers during his lectures, and so students would basically just write those down and not actually study.
oh, okay. Yeah. Did he teach on Mars as well, or
Yeah, he taught all the
okay.
planets. So like, and
Oh,
I
okay.
think he taught a class. He taught the class different than the way I do it. He would just like do one planet a week,
Yeah.
and like I try to teach in like themes or concepts or try to teach like what does it mean for what's the theory behind why the solar system formed. Let's understand that. Let's look at all the data that supports it. Let's look at like telescopes. How do we use them to get that data? And then like the space race, so like what sort of technological advances are helping us make those instruments and then get those discoveries. And then looking at like different processes, so like impact cratering is something that happens on Earth and all the other planets. And so how does it work? What do we look for when we look for a crater? And then like what does volcanism look like on Earth? What does volcanism look like on other planets?
What is that?
Yeah, so
Volcanism.
what's that?
What's that word? Volcanism?
Like volcanoes.
Oh, okay. My mind went straight to Star Trek. Sorry.
Yeah. Or I thought it was like Vulcan,
Yeah,
uh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Live long,
yeah,
prosper.
yeah, yeah,
Mortgage.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally, my mind's totally there, tractor with you. Yeah, sorry. So there's
No.
volcanoes on other planets, though?
Yeah, there are so Mars is primarily a volcanic planet.
Whoa.
It's covered by volcanoes. Venus has really large active volcanoes. And then the innermost moon of Jupiter, Io, is like actively erupting like right now, like constantly.
The moon.
And it
Dang.
Yeah, and so it goes around Jupiter, and then the three other major moons, Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede, they will sort of line up with Io and Jupiter, and they'll basically tug Io in the opposite direction as Jupiter. And so Jupiter's always pulling on Io, but every once in a while, Io gets kind of pulled in the opposite direction by those moons. And so inside Io, it's constantly doing this. There's like this constant flexing, and that's just like
Ah,
generating heat. And then that heat has to go somewhere, so then it like comes up to the surface in these like massive eruptions.
that poor moon. That sounds awful.
Yeah, yeah, you can look at it like that. I look at it as like one of the coolest things
Yeah, yeah.
about can I share the screen?
Yeah, yeah. I think it should be allowed to. Yeah, that's really cool. How many moons does
Yeah.
Jupiter have?
It's got four primary moons. I think it's got like 60 or 80 um
Dang.
like total moons.
I wonder if this is where all the theories about Zeus raping so many girls comes from. Because he's got so many ladies dancing around him.
So
That's
I
crazy that
want to try
it's
to
erupting.
find,
I didn't even know moons could be
yeah.
volcanoes. Wow. So is there a planet while you're looking that up? Is there a planet that's like oldest that we know of or no?
I mean, we think that all of the planets formed around the same time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that could lead into the whole gravity thing or how that happens. Do you know how that happens? How they form? You can explain all that, yeah.
Say again, what was the question?
And do you know how they form? How they actually come
The
together? Is it
planets.
yeah, yeah. We can get well after this. Let's see. What is this? This is the moon.
Yeah, that's Io actively erupting. Can you see that?
Whoa. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so this was probably taken by the Galileo spacecraft, and so it's several images sort of stitched together. And
So what
so
is
it's like
what's when that comes out? I mean, that's like molten hot then? Or what?
Yeah, it's actually molten sulfur.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So and then you can actually see there's another eruption happening right off of here. There's a
Wow.
little glint. And then there's actually a little faint thing coming off the side here. So it's got like multiple volcanoes happening at once. Um, yeah, here's just like some other views.
Are they
Um,
all round like that too? That's kind of
uh,
fascinating.
what do you mean?
Well, just like all the planets are round. Like, why isn't there a square one? That's probably a dumb
Well,
question, but
yeah,
it's just like,
it's by their gravity. So the gravity of the planet sort of shapes it out, evens it out into a sphere
yeah.
uh, as it's rotating, and so that spherical shape actually conserves the most energy.
Are they,
Um,
are all of them, I mean, are they like perfect spheres though? Or are some of them
no,
like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
no, they're definitely not perfect spheres. The like technical term for them is like a um a geode. Um, I think that's right. Yeah.
What was that last image you shared too? The yellow one? What was that?
Oh,
That was a,
that was Io.
okay.
That was the like
The
that's what
different,
you'd see with your eye. Yeah,
oh, wow.
that's the sulfur.
Oh, the
Um,
sulfur coming out. Okay.
yeah, yeah, the color, it gets its yellow color from the sulfur.
So
Uh,
are all the moons different colors too?
yeah, so look at the rest of Jupiter's moons.
What? How come I've never looked this up before? This is great. I don't know. Sorry if you do this all the time.
No,
This is
no, it's
fun for
good.
me.
Okay, so yeah, this is
We
there's
can,
Jupiter, or no, Io, Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede.
and so those are the three that pull on Io. That
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah, so Jupiter's over here on the left.
Okay, so
Um,
what are they? Are they all made of different stuff, I guess?
yeah, yeah. So Europa is very it has an ice shell, and then it's covered by all of these cracks. And so it's also kind of getting pulled and flexed by the orbits. And the crust has sort of kind of been broken up into these cracks. And we think that the core of Europa is also doing some flexing, but instead of manifesting that in the form of volcanoes, we think that it's actually heating up the bottom side of the ice crust, and it's actually formed an underground ocean layer. And so
Oh,
like
wow.
Europa's got this like ice shell crust, then an ocean layer, and then it's like rocky center.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Callisto, you can see that it's got these different textures. Think that its crust is less pure ice, that it might be mixed up with some other materials. Oh, I want to show you. This is Europa. That's a closer look of Europa.
Okay.
So you can see
Wow.
the different cracks in it.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy. It looks all like, yeah, scratched or something. It's scarred up.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And then I think here's yeah. So that's Callisto and Ganymede. And so its ice is a little bit more mixed up with other things. It's not pure ice. But they also think that these both also have maybe possible ocean layers beneath them.
So what is our moon made of then? It's not.
Our moon is made of a type of rock called its surface layer is called anorthosite. It is a kind of a kind of similar to rocks on Earth, except it's like really abundant in just one type of rock that we might find on Earth. Uh, um,
Okay.
yeah,
So
so they're in the they're in groups that are made of a lot of silicon and oxygen. So they're called silicates.
okay. Sorry if I'm
The moon's got
asking a lot of just like base questions here, not getting into yeah, this is probably
no,
stuff you repeat all the time. But
no, you're good. I mean, most people don't realize that there's like two parts to the lunar crust. There's the dark part, the mare, and the light part. And so these are two parts. This is one crust made out of two parts. The white part is much older. You'll see a lot more impact craters on it, and
uh,
then get a little closer. And then these dark parts, if you look at their shapes, they actually are like circular. And so the theory behind this was that these were major impacts early in the history of the moon that then filled up with lava that sort of emerged out from the deeper layers within the moon. So then they filled in, and because they were from another layer, they were made of different material. And so that's where you're getting that kind of different.
Do all the planets and all the moons have like multiple layers, apparently? Or that's kind of
Yeah,
the Did you say yes?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Are most of the cores like hot like the Earth's as well?
That's
Molten or
a great
whatever?
question. Um, yeah, so
Ooh, that one looks like cheese.
yeah,
Let's
so
see.
here's the
Core.
uh inner solar system. And yeah, we think that all of the planets in the inner solar system have sort of crusts, mantles, and cores.
Okay.
But they all kind of look a little different. So the Earth has got this really thin crust, a really thick mantle, a
Uh-huh.
liquid outer core, and then a solid inner core. And so there's a lot in there. But then when we look at the other planets, it's like they've got all these parts, but they're in different proportions.
Yeah.
So Mercury is like, I don't know, maybe like a third the size of Earth, but its core is equal in size to Earth.
Oh wow.
Um, and so something happened in the history of Mercury where it has a very thin mantle and a very thin crust, yet it has retained a really large core. And so some theories have been like it experienced a major impact, or it formed out by the orbit of Mars and then got sort of like thrown into the deeper into the solar system by Jupiter. It's like really strong gravity.
Wait.
Mars,
It
what?
got what again? It got thrown into the solar system by Jupiter? What did you just say?
Yeah, so Jupiter is like the quote unquote king planet.
Yeah.
And so everything is in orbit around the sun, but where Jupiter goes, a lot of things follow. And so Jupiter is capable of disrupting the orbits of asteroids in the asteroid belt,
Mm-hmm.
and sending them in all kinds of directions. And early in the solar system, things were much less ordered, they were much more chaotic. And so when these planets were forming, there's a higher likelihood that they might have gotten too close to a planet like Jupiter, and then that would have like really disrupted their orbit, and it could have sent them in a new direction,
Oh, that's
possibly
fun.
closer to the sun. Yeah, no, yeah, very chaotic. The
That,
history of the solar system is like pretty violent.
yeah, and if you think of it in terms of like story, like even the Greek myths and
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
it's like,
totally.
man, that's
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
chaos. Yeah,
How do they
yeah, total chaos.
determine the cores though? Is that just kind of guessing work or is it a
Yeah,
lot
a
of it?
little bit. I mean,
Okay.
it's they're really strong theories, I would say. I should give the
Okay.
science credit. I mean, ultimately they can do a little bit whenever they send a spacecraft, they can have like an accelerometer just to see how fast the spacecraft is moving. And depending on the makeup of the planet, it will pull on that spacecraft more or less, and they can use that information to do a calculation on just how dense the planet is. They can take other instruments that are trying to look for like a magnetic field, or to sense the planet's gravity, to sense sort of changes in the planet's gravitational pull. And then they can also like just run multiple computer simulation models to try to see, okay, what combination of crust, mantle, core sort of matches the data that we have from our spacecraft the best. So
Okay.
it's a lot of guessing, but they know how to guess really well.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Got another question then. Do you have a telescope? Do you personally have one?
I do not. I do not. I really want to get a telescope. They are quite expensive.
You can build one,
And
right? No, I'm just
oh yeah,
kidding.
I mean probably that'd be fun. Why? Why do you ask?
I was just curious. Yeah, I didn't know. What caused you to like have you always been interested in this stuff, or was it like since you were a child? Or
Yeah, I mean, I really did like it when I was a kid. I remember having like a bunch of astronomy books, and I'd like read those, and I'd kind of like memorize them. And then,
nice.
but yeah, but then like getting into like high school, I took a lot of chemistry and biology because that's what like we learned out in California. We never took really any geology. And then when I wanted to like study something in college, I wanted something like that was like more outside and more tangible. And so I studied geology, and then I was like, oh, I wonder if I could like study the planets. And I was able to like get an internship at NASA, and that sort of like started the whole
Nice.
journey. Yeah.
That's cool. So what did you do at NASA? Was that basically
Um,
studying?
Yeah, I did a project on one of Saturn's moons, Titan. Titan's really
I've
cool.
heard of that one before. Tell me about
Yeah.
Titan.
Titan is like a really strange moon. It's the largest moon of Saturn. It's the second largest moon in the solar system. It it's like the only moon with a very, very thick atmosphere.
Oh,
It has a thick atmosphere that is mostly composed of nitrogen, which is the same major compound in our atmosphere. And so scientists like get really curious about like this moon that's got all this nitrogen. Instead of having oxygen, though, it has methane. And so methane ends up acting as this like particle that sort of creates a like kind of like a water cycle, but like a methane cycle. And so methane can like transition from a liquid to a gas. And so on the surface, there's actually like rivers and lakes of methane.
whoa.
Because it's so cold out there, methane is actually able to sort of like condense into a liquid.
What is
Um,
that? What would that even be like? Would that burn like skin? What, I mean, I don't know
Um,
what methane does. I just know it smells bad, right? 'Cause that's
yeah. I mean, it's a hydrocarbon. And yeah, I don't know. It would be super cold. It's like
yeah, I guess so.
300 negative. So yeah, but the atmosphere is like really, really thick. And so I think they were doing an experiment, and they tried to adjust for its reduced gravity. And let's do basically there's enough there's enough atmospheric density that you could like have your own wings, and you would be able to create enough force to like fly. Like if you like attached like
Yeah.
your
Wingsuit.
arms,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a wingsuit. And if you were strong enough, you could flap and you could lift yourself off the ground. They did this experiment where they basically like had a guy on like a pulley system, and they had a counterweight so that the gravity that he was experiencing was the same gravity as what would be expected on Titan.
Yeah.
And then they like attached these like fins to his arms, and like he was like flapping, like he was like it was causing him to like kind of rise up in the air.
You
So
should have got
Titan's
that
super
job.
strange. Yeah.
That would have been a fun job to get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, so
crazy.
here's like some models of what we think the surface looks like based on our images.
Yeah.
This is like methods and like rivers. And then this is actually from a probe that we landed on the surface.
Whoa.
And it has like these images of these like river cobbles. So it looks like it was pretty active and moved material over the surface.
So
And then here's another one.
it's not just like methane. I mean, that's like what do they know what kind of rock that is there?
Yeah, great question. So it is probably made out of water ice. So it's so cold out there that any water that's present freezes.
Okay.
And so water almost acts like rock out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do the all the metals can they potentially become a gas or no?
Yeah, I think at a hot enough temperature. Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought I heard somewhere that gold actually can be purified down to a gas or something like that, but I never
Yeah.
never
No,
witnessed that.
I'm pretty. I'm pretty sure it has like a melting temperature and then an evaporation temperature. I mean, you probably just look that up.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you were saying Mars is like that too as well. It's like mostly gas, an iron gas around Mars or something like
oh no, dust. I was
that.
saying
Dust.
like
Oh,
there's
okay.
a lot of dust that covers Mars.
Okay. Oh, I got another question about Saturn though. So
Yeah.
I didn't dig into it all. It literally was like one of those articles that pops up on your phone, and it said something about the rings around Saturn are like apparently it was like they might finally be discovering what they're for. So I guess there's been this mystery about them or something. I have no idea. Do you know anything about that?
Nuh-uh.
Okay, all right. I don't know. It made him sound super mysterious on like that the Google ad. It was like they might finally know what the rings around Saturn are for or mean or something like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the theories is that there was like a comet or a planet that kind of got broke up in Jupiter in Saturn's gravity. And so then it flattened out and continued to orbit. Um
It's just are the
yeah,
rings made up just a bunch of like different particles and rock or ice or
yeah, a
something?
lot of ice crust.
Oh, okay.
And so that's like the material that you would commonly see for a comet. But I'm sure there's a much more sophisticated theory. I'm
Hmm,
just kind of winging it right here.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
almost. What was I gonna ask? There's something else. Oh yeah, have you? I may have already asked this. Did you look into alchemy more? Because I remember you said you were kind of interested in it a while back.
I was looking at it from more of like a archetypal meaning, like like who are the alchemists? What do they represent? What do they try to achieve in story or in society? And yeah, looking at more like an archetypal character.
Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of what that means. Do you mean like? So I mean, it's not. 'Cause it's where it's not actually about the transformation of metals. It's like the transforming of self, right, or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. That and like sort of um the kind of like the sovereignty of the individual to kind of like be a master of their own domain. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you discover anything?
I haven't looked, I haven't followed that rabbit hole very far. Yeah, I remember us talking about it at Craig's bachelor party. And so that's why I was curious if you were mentioning it. I don't think you had really like looked into the alchemist
No.
that much.
Yeah. It seems like I'm not really sure. I've looked into it a tiny bit, but I mean, it just seems like I don't really know how to get at it. It almost seems like there's a yeah, because it's more based about the transformation of self, as what I gather, rather than having anything to do with actual metal. Um,
Yeah.
and it's almost seems
Doesn't
like
does Jordan Peterson talk about alchemists?
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I know
Hmm.
it's there's like gosh, I think there's different like secret societies that would deal with it and stuff like that, like almost Gnostic societies or something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
this pattern of transformation where you start with the lowest metal or heaviest metal, I think lead. It's like most dense, so then you move through the metals and are transitioning and turning lead into gold. But I don't know if it's like a I mean, I would assume it's kind of like a secular process. Like once you reach gold, like you would, I mean, I don't think you just stay there. I would think it's your whole life you're kind of transforming one aspect of your life and transforming another aspect. But I could be wrong on that. I don't know.
Yeah. Have you come across any references to the Philosopher's Stone?
Philosopher's Stone. I've heard that reference before. Man, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. Is that
Yeah.
because is that the I think that is from my understanding that is the object that actually transforms lead to gold,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that's like, and I think it's the pursuit of that that's like that's more important than the transformation. Like the gold is just, it's just part of the material world and the cycle, but the philosopher's stone is meant as like the more meaningful, more transcendent, the more yeah,
Yeah. This
moving towards the
says
logos.
moving towards the logos. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, this says symbolizing perfection at its finest, enlightenment and heavenly bliss. Uh, is a mythical alchemical substance capable of turning base metals such as mercury into gold or silver. It is also called the elixir of life, useful for rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. For many centuries, it was the most sought goal in alchemy. I don't know. I mean, I could let me see here. I gotta get back to the Zoom thing. Let's share screen maybe. I just put it into Google, but I don't know. With it, like it's got, I don't know why it's showing me like a red stone. Is this from Harry Potter? Is that what it is? Is it Harry Potter? I had this image.
Oh yeah.
I thought this image was interesting with the shapes, but I don't know what to
Oh
make of
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, I think the Philosopher's Stone was the original name for the first Harry Potter book.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And I
see.
think they changed it. I think it changed it to the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like the symbols here are kind of intriguing to me. I don't know what any of that means. I'd like to know.
I
Uh,
mean, that looks like Earth, Moon, Sun. Yeah, that's Earth at the bottom.
yeah, there's Earth at the bottom. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's the Earth, I would say.
Oh, okay. So what's this? Wait, okay, and it looks like I wonder if that's the flower of life behind all that. Like with you see the lines drawn behind it?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
might be, huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. It's yeah, it's just it's fascinating because all these things tend seem to overlap. Like I was saying, like even with
Yeah.
the planets, it's like that overlaps. Then you have the metals of the planets, which overlaps with alchemy, which like I don't know, it's just so much stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a yeah, because okay, so there the other thing I don't know if we want to bring it up because I don't know that I've thought about it enough, but because when we were talking too, we were talking, you had asked me about alien life, and then we somehow that led into gravity and how gravity affects time and space, and then how that almost seems to have what were you thinking? That it might have some sort of way that maps onto glory in the Bible or something like that. Because you were mentioning
Yeah.
how how Christ in his glorified body seemed to move through matter or something. Or
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it came down to like this sermon that I listened to, and the guy giving the sermon was trying to give a definition for glory. And he said it was like a weightiness. And the analogy that he used was like, okay, if you've got a bowling ball and a bathtub, if you place the bowling ball into the bathtub, the water's going to get out of the way because the bowling ball has more weightiness than the water. And so the bowling ball, by analogy, would have more glory than the water. And so Christ's glorified self, in a sense, has more weightiness than all of our current physical matter, this physical world. And so, in a sense, like the if he when he walks through the door when the disciples are in the room and they say that the door was locked, I think the door could literally just get out of the way, or the matter, because he's got more weightiness, just like the water would get out of the way of the bowling ball. Um, and yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that. That's like, I mean, I guess it makes sense.
yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know. There's I don't know. It just like really helped me kind of like, yeah, if glory is in fact like this like weightiness, then
Mhm.
it just makes sense that like kind of like our physical world could just kind of um yeah, just be submissive to his will, or wherever he's going, it's just gonna like kind of follow his authority.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, because I'm trying to think of how that maps that. That seems to, I guess that maps onto gravity. Because I don't know, I was just thinking about it for a while because I had someone, it's a while back now that they brought up, yeah, how time and space seem to, are affected by gravity. And even like, what's that one movie with, the big giant planet and time moves like super slow on it and the guy,
Oh
why can't I
yeah,
think of it right now?
Interstellar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Interstellar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was like, because the gravity was different, time and space were almost different. And that just made me
Yeah,
think of like of things like attention, sort of, and which I think is related to glory because it's like how much weight do you give something in your life, and
yeah.
how much weight, how much you. A friend of mine, Luke, he would probably use the word like loving gaze rather than attention, like how much you actually focus on something or have it give it a loving gaze. It's like that gives it more weightiness, and then that would cause like would actually cause matter space and time to move and transform around it. And I think I
Mhm.
like even when you like when you have a child, it kind of the child takes all the glory, takes all the attention and the weight, and then you rearrange your house. Like it
Yeah,
time changes as well, like time and space. Like somehow way have a way of reorienting around this thing you're giving more glory. Um,
yeah,
but in Christ's circumstance, it's just kind of weird because it's like they don't even know he's there and he's just like it's not like they're putting glory on him. You know, it's not like this
right,
they're focusing their consciousness on this thing. It's just like he's just there.
right.
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, what when you've thought about gravity or glory, like what has come to your mind, or where does it intersect your thought process?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been that's what I mean. I haven't played with it enough. Like I just but it's something about I think that loving gaze. I think that might be a good way of putting it. I think that I don't know if it's just some weird intuition I have, but I feel like there's something there with that pulling um matter into manifestation or something like that. I don't know why. Because I think even with in terms of art or writing or something, you could have an idea, like something could come into your imagination, and then the more you give it weight, the more you give it focus and attention, it's like that would eventually you'd start writing a story or you'd start painting a picture or something like you could actually make something from it if you actually gave it enough attention and time and then
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like it would eventually manifest and that would be in a very natural way. I'm just seeing how this like if there's ways to map this on if it actually if that's how it actually happens if once consciousness focuses on an idea with such a loving gaze that it I don't know it comes into being. I don't know. Is that because
Yeah,
if God's a divine consciousness and he focuses his love into I don't know the earth or man or something or this universe, if that's kind of how things kind of like what even holds the planets together? It's just like what is that force? I mean, you could say gravity, but it's like what is? It seems like there's always a spiritual parallel or something like that as well, which is like I don't know. I guess would be like glory, um, the glory of Mars or something, whatever. What are your thoughts, man?
but
What are you thinking?
yeah, no, I'm kind of trying to kind of follow because I there are these things so that like I do spend a lot of time thinking about and yeah, almost like kind of like parallel to like a loving gaze. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to think about like what does that ultimately mean for end up like what ends up happening in the world? Like does it like my wife and I we want to like find a house and so I spend a lot of time on Zillow. And so like there's like a loving gaze for that like perfect home. Like it's kind of like imaginary in my mind. Um
Yeah.
Um,
You're
and
giving
so
it attention. Yeah.
yeah, and so I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know, but then there's also this like element like I feel like my mind has the ability to create fantasy, and fantasy never really seems to align with reality.
See what you're saying.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
and so it's almost like for the loving gaze to actually mean something, it's got to be oriented towards something that's real.
There
Uh,
has to be substance to the hope or something like that.
yeah. And I mean, there's a quote that we have on our wall, and it's like peace is found in the acceptance of the truth.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, it's Brennan Manning. Um, and that's like kind of been like a real big theme in my life is that like the truth really is the path to peace, regardless of how difficult or even like how beautiful it is, like um things that aren't like truthful or centered on the truth, they may be tempting, but they're ultimately kind of like um yeah, they're fake, they're fantasies, they're not real, and whatever emotional high they might provide, it's not going to last.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good thing to bring up. Yeah, because you can't just like willy-nilly just grab something and give it your attention and force your will upon the world all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, yeah, with this like loving gaze, I kind of want to flip the question, like, what is the gaze towards? And I
Yeah, yeah.
would argue that it can't manifest unless it's like actually real. And maybe that's like that sort of moral or parable that of like sowing seed. That like if someone like has a loving gaze towards something that's false, they'll sow and reap that
Mhm.
falsehood.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Unless the seed
yeah.
falls. Yeah, and there's self-sacrifice to it as well. Unless the seed falls in the ground and dies or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to think make of the resurrected body too, though. I don't know. Like I don't even know how this maps onto that, if it does. And the whole attention thing, loving gazing, could just be like it's just something that's come to my mind. I don't know why. I think maybe just because of that, the way a child seems to sees the attention of everyone, and then it's just
Oh
like,
yeah.
and then it kind of looks like the entire world revolves around the child for a while. Like even when
Oh yeah.
so
That's happening in our family right now. My
yeah.
nephew is literally the uh weightiest point in the family
Yeah,
tree.
my nephew as well too. It's like yeah, and then when he's around, it's like yeah, the whole family is kind of yeah, like the planets circling around him or something. He's the
Totally.
yeah.
Totally.
So I didn't know if that, and I guess, and I kind of wonder. I don't know. Yeah, I just wonder what that all means. Because even with the sun, like all the what does this? I mean, the sun has the largest gravity, right? And is that why everything rotates around? Yeah. So it has the biggest weightiness. Uh, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. I think there's a lot to glean there, but I'm not sure what to do with it yet. And I don't even
Yeah.
remember how that maps onto aliens. I can't remember how we were talking about that. I think it was something to do with metals, and I was like, I didn't know if they were because the Earth is made of clay, but then there's like all these different metals. I don't even know where I was getting at. It was a whole weird conversation. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any more thoughts on that? No.
No, not really. I haven't. I don't know. I've kind of gone back a little back and forth on the aliens lately. I um
I don't want to get you
yeah,
fired.
what yeah, no, totally. And yeah, so I don't know. I think that Fermi paradox is really really interesting. I mean, I think it connects to that whole thing about Mars. Like, um, so do you remember us talking about the Fermi paradox?
What was it again? The
The Fermi paradox is that like if the universe is old enough and there are enough solar systems in our galaxy, then there should have been enough time for an advanced civilization to come about and to be like have colonized the entire galaxy basically. And so it kind of like begs the question, like, where are the aliens? And so it's a paradox. It's a problem without an answer. And there are some assumptions into it, like life is prevalent and life that evolves into intelligence is capable of sustaining itself, basically not killing itself. And that space travel is inherently feasible. Um, and
Is it
so
space travel? Is that just kind of the same as interdimensional travel? Could you even say that or no?
no,
Oh,
no,
okay, no.
no, I'm talking more about like just like long
Distances.
duration
Okay.
space colonization. So like, do you remember Wall-E,
I
the
never
movie
saw
Wall-E?
all of it. I'm probably
Oh
gonna get so
no,
much drunk
yeah.
for that.
So they have this like giant ship, and like everyone's like living on this giant spaceship, and they have all their needs taken care of. So basically that, like, you need to have a way of sustaining like 100 generations in a ship to make it from one star system to another star system, because the distances are so large, and speeds approaching the speed of light are so difficult to get to. So it's going to take an incredibly long time to travel from one star system to the next and colonize it, and then like get to a place where you can move on to the next one. Um, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Huh. But yeah. So even I'm trying to see if the glory thing maps onto this, because like even with the idea, people's ideas of aliens, and the way Christ just appears and reappears, could that be said for the same thing with where people have, I guess, witnessed UFOs or something like that? Like it's just a different, I don't want to say different type of glory, but they're uh yeah, like walk.
Uh, I don't know. Like I think Christ's glory seems to be kind of like ultimate. Like,
Mhm.
um, and when I think about like an alien civilization, I see it as almost like technologically achieved.
Okay.
Um, and so like Christ's glory is
So like
uh
so did
supernatural, or like it's like
yeah.
transcendent of reality, whereas like whatever glory might be present in these appearing and disappearing aliens, like they've sort of like created that appearance.
Created that appearance.
Like
Okay.
they've like developed some sort of like technology to enable them to do it.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Because
like so
if I developed a technology that enabled me to walk through a wall, I would not say that I have the same glory as the resurrected Christ.
yeah, but would that make you an alien? Like, I don't know. Well, because well, there's a weird I don't know if you heard this theory before, but like there's I guess there's a lot of similarities, and I've heard this between like people's ideas of fairies and jinns and aliens and all that stuff, and even demons and angels and spirits, like angels
Right.
being associated with, but they wouldn't be. I think in those circumstances, aliens wouldn't be perceived to be technologically advanced. They'd almost be taken as, I guess, like interdimensional or something weird like that. I don't really know. I don't know what you would. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, like if you were thinking of it, an angel or a manifestation of an
I think the
angelic
thing,
being.
yeah, I guess I'm curious. The question or the differentiating factor for me kind of lies with, where did these beings begin? And so for us as humans, I feel like we began in a very primitive state,
Mhm.
and we've kind of evolved and developed into a more advanced state. Whereas like I feel like angels are created in that state.
Yeah.
So they're created with a certain amount of glory. Um, and then for these aliens, I guess the question is like, did they start in a more primitive state? And did they then evolve and develop into a more quote unquote glorified state, or were they like created in that glorified state?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Uh, like, do they actually have some sort of arc? Is that what you're asking? Some sort of narrative arc in a
Right.
way? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know, because you have the fall of angels. Like, apparently some of them fell, so they seem to fall into have this descent about them. I don't know, but we always perceive aliens as um what is Jonathan Peugeot? I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but I think he talks about like aliens are always kind of like a higher consciousness. Like that's how we perceive them in story. They're kind of they're always more intelligent too. They're always more almost like more angelic. They're heavenly beings. And then you have like demons are always like kind of monsters from below sort of thing. And and
Yeah.
even and I guess aliens, I guess we have stories of aliens where they come kind of almost in like demonic form, but they're always yeah, but I don't know if maybe that is why, because we even are in our stories we have some of the aliens or whatever you'd say heavenly beings come in almost a demonic
Mhm.
fashion or something like that, to where they're almost like fallen or um I don't know. It's never good when they show up in our
Hmm.
stories, though. It never seems good either way. Even when they're even when they're super intelligent, I'm like it always seems to bring about some type of end of the world scenario. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like what stories are you talking about?
Well, I don't like just it seems like all the stories where we have like aliens come into the atmosphere or something like where humans encounter alien life, like just in movies or something, I guess is what I'm talking about. Like even in that those things. They're always usually hyper intelligent, far above us. Um they're always heavenly, you know, it's just kind of weird. They're almost like um our personification of heavenly angelic beings or something like that. But that's just in stories. I'm not
Mhm.
in the movies. I'm not talking about like actually seeing like UFOs in the natural, which I do think actually happens, but it's just I don't know what to make of all that either. Um
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
what did you think about the aliens in Arrival?
Arrival, you know, the that was when I don't even know if I remember that movie all that well, but that was the one with the weird their communication where it was like they're talking in circles, right? How did that movie end? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
I
it
don't know.
ended it ended with them as kind of being rescuers for like humanity.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I
Um,
remember that. What do you think about that?
I mean, I thought that was a little different because they were very non-human like.
Yeah.
Um, they were like they called them like heptapods. They had like seven legs, and they like kind of walked like this. And
Super creepy. Yeah.
um, yeah, I know, it was, yeah, totally creepy. Their language was like totally abstract.
Yeah.
Is totally like a different like awareness of time. Time flowed forward and backward. Um, and so I appreciated that sort of representation of aliens because it was like the most unhuman I had like sort of encountered in a story.
Yeah.
And yet there still was this like this desire for communication and empathy and assistance. And yeah, I think the whole plot was like their world was dying, and they needed help, but they needed to ensure that humanity didn't like destroy itself or destroy the earth, because in like 300 years like they would need to come and receive help from humanity. And so they went back in time essentially to communicate with humanity and
Okay, yeah, I
attempt to
remember.
like ensure humanity like took care of itself. Uh,
That's fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah, so then you have
So
time
th
travel
they
as
were
well.
they were yeah, they were essentially in order for them to survive, they needed to help us.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really cool. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Yeah, it's weird. Like I'm trying to. I feel like I'm failing at this topic. I have no idea what to do with it because I haven't thought about it enough. But like, I wanna actually like. It's interesting thinking about these things. I'm trying to think of where they might actually map onto some of these other ideas we've recently been discussing. But I'm like, I don't even know where to go with it. I don't know. I don't know. What's that? What's that line though? They say like aliens are always they're always coming but never here. Fairies are always going but they're never gone. Have you heard that one before?
I haven't heard that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's
It's
good.
like I like it. I don't know. I did have I can let you go soon though, but I did have another question. I didn't know. This is just kind of I guess more practical information. I'm just trying to glean off you for now. Do you know anything about like actual like living stones? Because when we were at the what that was it we went to? It wasn't a museum, was it? I don't even remember anymore. And we were
Yeah,
looking at all those
I mean, we sit
gemstones.
outside of a museum. Oh, yeah, the Mineral Museum.
Yeah, what do you know about living stones? You got any information on that?
What are living stones?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Like where they actually um because looking at the crystals in the museum, like they're actually growing, right? They're actual stones, like gemstones that actually grow, right? Or no?
No. Those aren't grown. No.
You know, I didn't think they did, and then when we were there, somebody told me they did, and I'm like, I don't know who it was. I thought it was you, but I guess not, because yeah, you weren't actually. I don't think I ran into you till it got split up here and there, but okay, so they don't actually
Yeah.
grow. They're not actually. What is considered a living stone then?
They I don't know. I hadn't heard that term before tonight.
Oh, okay.
Um
Well, it's in scripture,
yeah.
you know, where they talk about living stones, and then when we were looking at the gemstones, like some of them were like look like spikes, like almost like urchins, sea urchins or something. And that's when somebody said, "Oh, because they're living
Yeah.
stones, they grow that way," or something like that. And I was like, I'm just so gullible. Who knows? Who knows what I'll believe next? All right. Sorry.
Oh wow.
So what are the
Um Yeah, I mean, so minerals, those minerals, they do grow. They grow in a different environment, usually underground, with water, and some like elements dissolved in the water, and then those elements attach to the mineral and it sort of grows. Or it's like growing out of a magma chamber. Um, Usually it's being growing out of some type of fluid, and the atoms are able to join together very slowly over time. And so those minerals all grew, and then they were taken out of their environment, where they were like stable, and then they were placed in that museum.
so they were growing. They did actually grow then. Yeah. What do they
They
make?
they grew, they grew, and then they stopped growing, and then they were put in a museum.
Okay. So what are they like the gemstones and stuff like that? Are they just made of all sorts of different materials? Or is it metals or what is it? Or just is it a bunch of different things?
So I mean, they're all minerals. They're all different types of minerals.
Minerals. Okay. So it's like in quartz just a lot of different minerals? Is that one? Okay. All right.
Quartz is one type of mineral, yeah, and you can have different sort of impurities inside the quartz structure to give you different colors of quartz.
Okay. So is that what makes a gemstone different from just a normal stone? Is because it's made of minerals or something? What like I mean
Say it
what
again.
would
It cut out.
oh sorry. Is that what makes like gemstones different from just normal stones? because it's made of minerals, or
No, so like stones are rocks, and so rocks contain multiple minerals inside
talking
them.
talking to a 5-year-old here. It's like, no,
No,
stones
no,
are
no,
rocks.
Jason, no,
I'm
Jason,
like,
this is literally what I tell my students. So like this is like pretty standard for like college. So it's totally you really only learn that you end up taking a class in it, so don't worry.
all right, all right, okay,
So okay, let's start from like the most fundamental like thing. So we have atoms,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
all right, all
right.
right,
And then atoms combine together to
yeah,
form minerals.
uh-huh,
And then you can take multiple minerals and put them together to form a rock.
okay. And then but the gemstones, like they're like
So
shaped all
those
weird.
gems, those yeah, those all those gems, each gem was made of one type of mineral.
Okay, okay, all right. And there, because there's some of them were just shaped weird too. Like some of them were in cubes. Did they shape them that way, or because I thought it?
No, they grew that way.
That's what I thought that was suggesting when we were there. I was pretty sure it said that. And yeah, some of them were like perfect cubes, even like there were some black ones,
Yeah,
I think.
so yeah, that's where the atoms, so the atoms make the minerals. The atoms are actually bonding at like 90-degree angles all the way through. And so it's a cube no matter how you slice it.
It's crazy. I mean, I just don't even understand that. I don't know. It's just fascinating to me that that actually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then see that's weird too. Then why wouldn't we have a cube planet? You know, because it
Well,
rounds
so like
itself out.
gravity gravity acts at gravity is stronger at that scale and of that mass. So gravity like um the bonds and the forces that are controlling the bonds in the atom are much stronger than gravity's effect on one atom.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's the opposite way that like the mass of the planet is much has much more effect in the gravity overall than the bonds that might try to build a cube planet.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, I don't know what to do with all that. It's a lot of yeah. I don't know. So I don't even know what was considered a living stones then. I guess I always thought it was gemstones, like in the scriptures when it talks about it, because they put they put the I think it's 12 stones in the ephod in the breastplate of the priest, and they're supposed to like light up or something like that. So I'm assuming they were gemstones of some sort where they would light up.
Yeah, yeah, I think there was like different names like onyx and
Uh-huh.
topaz maybe or
Yeah, yeah.
I just remember they had a list of names. And so
Yeah.
yeah, they were probably gems, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to do with all that. It's just that yeah, it's just fascinating me. I don't know. I didn't know if that's why they were considered living stones. Maybe if that had something to do with the way light reflected into them. I know a lot of times people use those different stones for I mean even like in different types of magic and healing practices too as well and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I mean I could see a name like Healy or Stones come out of the way that the light reflects off of it. I guess that could like indicate a name.
well supposedly they
But
can like
yeah,
work with energy in weird ways too, because doesn't quartz do something like that? It like does it not?
yeah. Well, quartz has a vibrational pattern that causes it to um basically like when it takes in photons from sunlight, it can transfer those photons into electricity. That's why um, solar panels are built out of the same. elements as quartz.
Well, wait, so quartz just by receiving sunlight can transfer that into electricity?
Um, I
That's
don't think you
crazy.
can get electricity off of a quartz crystal,
Oh yeah.
but uh the silicon and the oxygen that make up the quartz, I believe that there's a type of wavelength of light that really sort of like matches up with it.
Huh. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to, like I said, I still need to. I mean, as you've probably discovered, it's like talking to a 2-year old here. I don't know hard much of anything. I just know very,
No,
very
no, no,
surface
you're
level
good.
stuff. And it's
You're,
all like scattered surface level stuff where I'm like, I need to look more into this. And I haven't yet. But all the different gemstones I
yeah, no,
really
you're good.
want to look into. Because even some of them, I remember when we were in India, we went and they were showing us some of the gemstones there that they had used, I think, for the Taj Mahal or something. And they would even have the way light would
Nice.
reflect to them. They would like one of them actually would should like if you looked at it, it would have a cross on it. The way light would reflect on it. Another one was like a six-pointed star. I can't remember what the different stones were, but yeah, it's just
Nice.
fascinating all the different. So I mean, there's just so much stuff. There's so much stuff out there. How am I supposed to look everything up? I don't know. Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite wait, go ahead. What?
Did you ever get into gold panning?
I bought okay, so I bought more stuff and then I think I told you this, right? When I was buying the stuff again. I haven't been though. I haven't been back
Uh,
out. I actually signed up for the so I'm a member again of the what Gold Prospectors Association of America or something. It's like GPAA, I think. Um it's only like $5 a month, but I actually haven't been. I need to go out back out west or something probably. There's like one place in Tennessee. It's just I've been before and you can find gold. It's just like dust. Uh some people have found a few nuggets, but I never have. I just find like tiny, tiny little flakes and it's not it's definitely not
cool.
worth it. It's not worth the time or the money you put into it, but it's still fun, to do as a hobby. I just haven't been back out there, but it's hard work too,
Yeah.
turning over rocks and everything. Why you want some gold? Want me to go
Yeah, totally.
find you some gold?
No, no, no. I'm
Are,
good.
are
I'm
you
good.
all right? Whatever. If you don't want gold,
I mean, I'll
I'm
go
just kidding.
gold panning. I mean, that
I'm
sounds
just kidding.
fun.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks. Sorry if I just asked a bunch of weird questions. Thanks for doing this though. We need to talk more
No, man,
often.
you're great. It's
You're
good. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, you're just like a wealth of knowledge. Like, I mean, just there's just so much that I can glean from, and I'm not sure what to do with it yet. Sorry. So it's just like I'm just like trying to absorb everything. So, but yeah, anytime you want
No,
to talk though,
future conversations.
yeah, yeah. And if you ever want to like get into more, I don't know, even like into philosophical, theological stuff too, let me know because I can send you a link whenever we. Sometimes the conversations are just totally sporadic and random, and I'll just be like, "Hey, anybody free tonight?" So, uh, but they usually tend to
Nice.
revolve around theology. It seems like a lot of times. So, but if you're interested in that, I can.
Nice.
You're always welcome to join. So, but
Sweet.
anyways,
Yeah,
well,
yeah. Hit me up. I'll let you know.
okay. Well, thanks for doing this, man. I guess I can end the recording here, and then we can. Is that cool? All right. Let's see. Stop
Yeah.
recording.